We're doing our 4x4 series now, where the focus is on the minor arcana, or the pips. Before we start with today's lesson, as I'm working through these cards and their relationships again and again, I'm starting to notice some things that maybe I hadn't noticed before, and they're all in conjunction with what we already understand. But it's sort of a deepening understanding, and part of that is due to renewed confidence in the work of Pamela Coleman Smith in the designing of the cards. I always thought that the major arcana, it was designed expressly to teach the practical Kabbalah through the Tree of Life and Tree of Knowledge. I always considered the minor arcana, which really is just a basic deck of playing cards. I always thought the minor arcana was kind of shoehorned in, but as I'm working through it, some of the things I didn't think fit before, I find really fit very well depending on your perspective. So I must admit to a growing admiration for Pamela Coleman Smith's artistic renderings of the minor arcana. The more I study them, the more connections seem to appear. And this became especially true for today's lesson, which we're looking at the 5 cards of the minor arcana. Last week we did the 4 cards, and the 4s and the 5s are 2 sets of 4 cards that tell a story. As we saw in last week, we talked about the 4s as forewarning. When we talk about the 5s, it's sort of saying, well, you didn't heed our advice, so this is something bad that can happen to you as a result. We are talking in this 4x4 series about the 56 pips or tarot cards of the minor arcana. Today, we are studying the 5 cards, that is the cards that have the number 5 of the suited deck, and the relationship to the 5th sefer of the Tree of Life and the Tree of Knowledge. All the 5 cards do respond, do kind of take their cue from the 5th sefer of the Tree of Life and the Tree of Knowledge. We're talking today about the 5 cards. Last week we talked about the 4 cards, which was forewarning. In the 4th sefer, we had the Emperor, which was your kind of confidence. And then as you built this confidence, it sometimes materialized as overconfidence. And it was the Devil card, which is bedeviled. This is not a satanic influence. The Devil card refers to somebody who is addicted to adoration. So the 4 cards gave us warnings. They said, hold on to your money, keep it fast. Keep your plans to yourself and those immediately involved. Don't advertise outside that enclave. For happiness, be suspicious, be aware. Don't accept any short-term happiness. Look for the long term. And in swords, if you have great strength, put it aside, let it rest. Concentrate on your other virtues. Those were the 4 cards. The message of the 4 cards is a warning. The warning is to seek variety and balance. Because you're good at something, don't devote your life to only that one thing. We are composed of 4 parts. Work on all 4 parts. Do not show off or brag about your strength, plans, wealth, or happiness. And that's sort of the rule of the 4 cards, forewarning. With the 5 cards now, we are going to see 4 examples of what can happen if we do not heed the warnings of the cards that are numbered 4. To do that, to start with, we're going to do a compare and contrast. We're going to look, because the 4s and 5s directly work together. The fours come first and the fives are the results. So we're going to take a look. The four cards have their essence. The 4-5 cards have their essence in the fifth sephirot of the Kabbalistic trees. On the tree of life, we have the Hierophant. This is the place of learning the ancient ways. On the same sephirot, on the other tree, we have the other side of the Hierophant, which is the Tower. This is the place where what you thought was wise turns out ultimately to be foolish. The 5 cards of the minor arcana are all about passion and severity. The passion is what motivates you, drives you, and the severity is what happens when mistakes are made. They are about thinking you have all the answers, but it turns out you were so very wrong. The 5 cards are teaching us 5 hard lessons. The 5 cards are on the left column, the column of severity, and it is the pillar of female energy. We will therefore refer to the characters on the 5 cards as female. The 5 cards of the minor arcana reflect what can happen if you don't heed the warnings of the 4 cards. So let's begin. We're going to do a review of the 4, and then we are going to illuminate the lesson of the 5 cards, which is what we're studying today. We'll start with the 4 of Cups. The 4 of Cups advises us to reject temporary joys, such as ecstasy or inebriation. True happiness is a byproduct of interests, activities, and relationships. This is what we're taught in the 4 of Cups. When we move to the 5 of Cups, we see a shrouded woman. She's in mourning over the loss of a source of her happiness. This is a card of regret. In this case, the happiness was not looking towards the long term. Short-term happiness caused the loss of her long-term happiness. This is a card of regret. We're going to move now to staffs, and we remember last time in the 4 of staffs, it advises us to celebrate amongst our own and to keep your plans to yourself. As the saying goes, talk about what you've done, not what you're going to do. And this lesson will come out again and again with the staffs, which are your plans and your enterprise. Don't tell everybody, don't share with everybody. What will happen, as we'll see, is it will turn into too many cooks spoiling the broth. These are your ideas, your enterprise. Keep control. So we see what the 4 of staffs is telling us. Let's see what happens with the 5 of staffs when that advice is not recognized. The 5 of staffs is the card of constant quarrel. Constant quarrel can exhaust you. Your fledgling enterprise has been overwhelmed by copycats, competitors, and people who want to support you. You now spend so much of your time debating, arguing, and overcoming obstacles. This is a card of exhausting defense. The lesson was to not advertise everything that you're going to do. It brings into your foray too many people, too many ideas. Last week we looked at the 4 of coins, and we're going to look at the 5 of coins in just a minute. The 4 of coins advises us to keep our wealth and conserve it. Resist the urge to spend and show off. And of course, that urge is very often noted in people of some wealth. We often call them the nouveau riche, where they want to show off their wealth. This is a card that advises not to keep it safe, keep it hidden, save it for a rainy day. If that advice is not heeded, we will move into, or we can move into, the Five of Coins. I'm sorry, what was I doing here? Yeah, the Five of Coins. I think I may have said cups before. We are talking coins. And the Five of, and coins is your wealth. If you have wealth, resist showing it off. If you don't listen to that advice, this can be one of the results. The Five of Cups that we're studying today is a card called the Dark Night of the Soul. It depicts a destitute couple barefoot in the snow, injured and dressed in rags. They have lost everything, even hope. This is a card about hitting rock bottom. This is a card, and we'll talk more about wealth, and we do. Wealth is kind of something people don't want to talk about, and it's seen sometimes as superficial, something to brag about. But wealth is actually your ability to not be tied to other people. It's the idea of autonomy. Wealth is not something for luxury. Wealth is something for personal freedom. Move now to the swords. Last week we looked at the Four of Swords. It is the suit of power, and we see a man setting aside his use of power. He strives to be more balanced. He no longer wants to be defined by his power. He is strong. He can be dangerous. He is autonomous. He wants to work with people on other levels. He doesn't want fear and worry to be an aspect of his relationships. He has set aside his power. And this is very difficult to do because we revere power in our society. And in the Five of Swords, we'll see what happens when we are reluctant to put aside our strengths and we start to define ourselves by our strengths. And that definition can escalate, and it can be more difficult over time because you put yourself in an arena of competitive people. So we'll look at the Five of Swords now. Five of Swords, we see in the background someone who is not me, you, or the person you are fortune telling for. This is a woman gathering up the fallen swords, and she is our conqueror. She has fought against us, and her power was greater than ours. There is no doubt. That's just what happened. By living in the arena of power, we unknowingly invite challenges, and this is a card of utter defeat. The warning was, don't live by the sword. And the saying is, because you can die by the sword. So what we've seen so far is that the four cards were forewarning us of some dangers against being extravagant and showing off to other people what we have. The five cards that we've studied today, we can think of them as not good cards to have in a reading because they are depictions of what can go wrong if the warning in the fours was not observed. Now, when we're doing a card reading, there are certain things we can say about the five cards, and they don't back us into a corner. We try to keep it open enough so it could refer to something going on now, or it could refer to something very important to you in your past. Okay, in a reading, let's say we had the Five of Cups show up. And it should be right here. So if this card gets laid down, you don't want to sort of recoil and say, oh no, this is terrible. This is part and parcel of an archetype that we are all going to experience at some time. And this is an example of what you can say. We've laid down the Five of Cups and you're explaining it to the person. And you might say something like this. At some point in your life, something happened that still brings you sadness. You pursued something that you thought would bring you joy, but instead it ended up costing you a source of your happiness you may have taken for granted. There's a saying, you don't always know what's lost till it's gone, and this card exemplifies that. We'll move now to what you might say in a reading with the Five of Staves, and we'll see this is a person that involves so many people in their plans that they now have people every day with questions and comments and concerns, and you're busy being busy rather than creating your enterprise. In the Five of Staffs, you might say something like this. You've come to realize that being busy is not always a good thing. Perhaps there was a time when you involved too many people in your plans and projects. Sometimes you find that so much of your time goes to interpersonal disputes and validations. You are the planner and moderator at the same time, and sometimes it seems as if there are too many players in your game. And that's a card I think that we could all relate to at some level and at some time. Move now to the Five of Coins. And there's nobody that looks at this and thinks this is a really positive card. It's called Dark Night of the Soul. And we see tattered rags and injury, people cold, barefoot in the snow and lost. The Five of Coins. At a reading, you can say something like this. You don't have to, you can say many things, but something like this keeps it kind of open, and it may be a springboard to other ideas. In the Five of Coins, we see loss of wealth resulting in poverty. The meaning of this card suggests bad luck with money, poor investments, inadequate savings, and not enough cash flow to pay for your needs and lifestyle. You will have to increase your earnings or decrease your needs and wants. And as we have seen, and we've talked about hitting rock bottom, this card, the person has been forced to reduce their needs and wants. They have only enough to barely survive. They had money, but that money was, I would say, squandered, or maybe mistakenly invested, or maybe stolen. But the money they had was not pinned tightly to their ownership, and it's now no longer theirs. We'll move now to the Five of Swords. This is a way of breaking the news to someone that not every contest is going to be yours to win. And in the Five of Cards, I would start by saying something like this. You are a strong person. It is fair to say that in the past, you were powerful. Looking back, you wondered if you had become a target. Maybe some people were envious of your power. Perhaps, looking back, you think you may have had some enemies. In any case, there was a time when you had to stand up for yourself. There was a contest of sorts. And in that contest, you lost. There are reasons for that loss, but you lost. You remember that feeling of defeat, and we hope it brings you wisdom rather than anger and thoughts of revenge. This is the archetype of plans not going very well and causing us distress. Sometimes we are winners, sometimes we are losers. The four suited 4 cards give us a warning to not only rely on our strengths, they forewarn us. Moving on to the 5 cards, the 5 cards show us what can happen to people who are not humble or cautious. In our youth, we take things for granted and we take risks. This is a card of discovering that some risks are not worth taking. All the cards in the minor arcana are archetypes. They show us a picture we can relate to and a situation we have probably been in before. The 5 cards depict paying for your mistakes. The 4 cards are a warning. The 5 cards, payment is due, and you will lose something because of an omission on your part. Okay, Jocelyn, do we have any questions today?
We do, and before going on, Tired Bamboo Sunshine says thank you for sharing your extensive
Hi,
knowledge.
Tired Bamboo.
And we have people passing by.
Okay.
Hopefully they choose to stay longer next time. How are the 5 cards about passion and severity?
The 5 cards respond to the 2 5 places on the Tree of Life and the Tree of Knowledge. And we see the Hierophant, and this is the passion. This is the learning of the secrets and the ancient knowledge. The other side of that card is the Tower, and that is destruction of beliefs. The Tower held many secrets, many treasures of knowledge, but it had, in defining itself, it had confined itself. And the top of the tower blowing off suggests that full knowledge and understanding can never be enclosed by a single business or corporate entity. Just to make sure. So these are the 2. We start out with passion. We move to severity. Now the second part of this is with the 5 cards, we encounter a force that began as our own. It may be an adversary or a natural result. The lesson is we have to accept defeat and at times re-examine our own beliefs. The 5th place on the 2 trees is represented by, as we said, the Hierophant, which is the shattered belief, and the Hierophant, which is full belief, and the Tower, that is shattered belief. Those are the 2 phases that we go through with the 5 cards.
In a reading, would you consider the 5 cards as indicating happiness or sadness?
The 5 cards are about a loss of faith and a severe result. This is not a card of happiness. This is a card of you don't want to admit that you might have been wrong, but you're going to have to. And this is a big stage of learning and maturity. The 5 cards tell us about a sad episode in our lives. And so in answer to the question, the 5 cards are not happy cards. They are cards of gaining knowledge and maturing through difficult times. Number 3.
Why is the 5 of Staffs a bad thing? If staffs are our ideas and plans, isn't it better to brainstorm and share?
Yeah, and as we saw with the 4 of staffs, there was celebration, but they didn't go outside of that gateway. They stayed with the people directly involved. But these plans can be exciting, and you want to tell your friends and family, and you want to advertise it within your milieu that you're doing these things, and that can invite a lot of hangers-on. So, with the 5 of staffs, we are reminded of studies that say brainstorming doesn't always work. It was really in vogue for a while, where you get a whole bunch of people into a room and everybody come up with ideas. There are no wrong answers. These studies suggested that that wasn't as efficient as having the people work on their own, developing their own learning style, and then coming together with fully thought out plans. That was more productive. You got more done. So the idea of the more the merrier when it comes to your enterprise isn't true. The 4 cards warn us to keep within your circle, and the 5 cards show us that if you don't, a lot of the energy you could be putting into your enterprise will go into managing the people who are hanging on around you. If your ideas and enterprise are good, many people will bother you for selfish matters, selfish motives.
What is the archetypical lesson in the Five of Swords?
Remember, the 4 of Swords was take a break. Quit strutting around like you're going to beat everybody up. If you're powerful, keep it in your back pocket. Work on your other things. Don't engender fear and worry in people. It's your own weakness that makes you advertise your strength. But what happens is very irresistible sometimes. In the 4 of Swords, you were warned to put aside your power. You did not, and you were defeated. By having power part of your definition of yourself, you will always invite challenges. There is always somebody more powerful. Always. Nobody has ever been the most powerful. Defeat is possible in any contest. Things go wrong. The lesson in this card is losing with grace. And that's a lesson that will never fail you. None of us win all the time. If you want to see the measure of a person, see how they react when they don't win, and that will tell you a lot.
What am I supposed to learn from the Five of Coins?
5 of Coins. We have to get over the notion that money is something unsavory we don't want to talk about. We don't want to pretend we have it. And when we get it, we want to do things that show off to our friends. We've got sort of the wrong idea of money as the icing of a cake, like something extra. The true nature of money, it's not flash and impressing people. It's not a short period of debauchery. Money is your safety net. Money enables you not to be controlled by others. The 5 of Coins make money about survival, health, and freedom. Money is a great thing if we approach it in kind of a humble and appreciative way. And that's it for the 5s of the Minor Arcana. And thank you for joining us. And we'll see you next week as we look into the 6 cards. Bye for now.